Boker Tov only is Nedarim Daf Nanalef Nedarim 51. We're going to start on the bottom of Nun on the base, 3 lines from the bottom. The Gemara is relating an interaction between Bar Kapara and Rebbe, referring to a difference of opinion as to what is the proper way a person should live their life. Should they live it with laughter or by refraining from laughter? So the Gemara says that Yoma Demachayach Bei Rebbe Asya Paranusa Alma, the day that Rebbe would smile would bring punishments to the world. And the reason for this is because Rebbe was the head of the Jewish community, and he felt that it was his job to be mitzdayer, to be in distress about the destruction of the temple. And so since he was very wealthy, if he would be laughing, it would look like he doesn't care about the distress that the Jewish people are in. The Marsha explains that Rebbe was a person who was a Baal Yisurim. He was able to withstand many afflictions, as the Gemara Bamitzia tells us in Daf Pei Hey, that all the years that Rebbe didn't have afflictions, then there was no rain. And Bar Kapara, even though he knew about this, nevertheless, he took the opposite approach. He followed the Gemara in Tainus 22a, that who gets a share in the world to come? Somebody who makes other people laugh and smile. And he felt that it was his job to make Rebbe Akiva smile, to make Rebbe smile, in the spirit of the way in which Rebbe Akiva laughed when he saw that the temple was destroyed, because he knew that the ultimate redemption was still coming. The Gemara says, Yoma de Mechayach Bei Rebbe Asya Paranusa Alma, that day punishments would come to the world. So Amalei Bar Kapara, he says to Bar Kapara, Lo Tavdichan V'ayibnolach Arban Grive Chiti. He says, don't make me laugh, and then I'll give you 40 measures of wheat. Commentaries explain that Rebbe Bar Kapara's job was to be a batchon, to make people laugh. So Rebbe said, I'll give you your full salary, just don't make me laugh, because I don't want to be laughing. So Bar Kapara said to him, listen, the kol grivia divaina shakilna. He says, I can take whatever I want. He says, watch. And he's speaking with sarcasm or with humor. So on the top of Nun Aleph, Shakil Dekua, he took a basket, Dekua Rab, a big basket, Chafia Chufra. He lined it with some material to prevent anything from dripping through. And he put it over his head. He says, he made himself look silly, and he said, give me the 40 measures of wheat that you owe me. So Rebbe started laughing, smiling. Didn't I warn you? Didn't I warn you not to make me laugh? He said, no, the wheat you owe me, I'm asking for. Meaning to say, I'm just getting from you what's really mine. It was just this sarcastic conversation, saying, look, you know what? I'm still going to make you laugh, even though you told me not to. So Amarei Bar Kapara Lebarte de Rebbe. So Bar Kapara said to the daughter of Rebbe, Lamachar, the next day there was going to be a wedding. So he said, because in the previous stuff we learned that Bar Kapara was upset he wasn't invited to the wedding. So now this is the wedding, so he's got invited. He said, tomorrow at the wedding, Shatina Chamra Perikuda Davuch Uvikirkani Dimech. Tomorrow I'm going to drink wine while your father dances, Uvikirkina Dimech, and by the kirkina of your mother. What's the kirkina? So the Ran tells us that Shetahei that your mother will, karkaris is like croak, it's onomatopoeia, like croak, and also she will be singing. So we see from here that Rebbe's wife was going to be singing in front of Bar Kapara. So Ben Elasa Chasna de Rebbe Hava. So Ben Elasa was the son-in-law of Rebbe V'Asher Gadol. He was very wealthy. I think that's their way of saying he was very proper. Is Mane Beirua de Rebbe Shimon Bar Rebbe. So they invited Bar Kapara to this wedding of Rebbe's son, Rebbe Shimon. Amalei Bar Kapara Rebbe. So they were all at a wedding, and presumably at a wedding there was there was the potential for some inappropriate behavior. So Bar Kapara started asking Rebbe about certain words that have the context of connotations in the Torah of sexual prohibitions. So he started asking about it. He said to him, so Bar Kapara says to Rebbe, what does it mean when it says in the Torah that a person is not allowed to engage in a man's not allowed to engage in mishkavei isha? It says v'isha sherishkavis mishkavei isha, a man who lies with another man, toeva. It's called a toeva. Some people translate this as an abomination, but Bar Kapara says to Rebbe that's not the real translation. What does toeva mean? So called the Amrei Rebbe. Anytime Rebbe tried to say, well, this is a toeva, paracha Bar Kapara dismissed that approach. Amrei parshayat. So Rebbe gives up. He says, what does toeva mean? Amrei teisi deveischa, bring your wife, and tirmeli natla. And he says, bring your wife and have her pour for me a small vessel. Basically pour some wine for me. Asas, the wife came, Ramule, she poured him some wine. Amrle Rebbe, so Bar Kapara said to Rebbe, Kumra Kodwi, get up and dance for me, the Emerlach, and I'll teach you what it means. Hachi Amar Achmana, this is what the Torah tells us Toeva means. It means Toeva means Toea Taba. It means you're making a mistake. Toea Taba Akasa Achrina. You're leaving your wife and going to another cup, meaning to say you should stay with your wife. That's what it means. Toeva means not like some people translate it as abomination. It means that you're going away from your wife. That's what toeva means. So a person is prohibited, a man is prohibited in mishkavei isha, a man is prohibited to sleep with another man, but this is called a toeva, which means toea taba. That you're not allowed to engage in, that you're not allowed to leave your wife for another cup. So in that context, he says, what does it mean when it says that a woman is not allowed to lie with another animal? It's called tevelhu. So what does that mean? What does it mean when it says that if a woman lies with an animal, it's called tevel? So Bar Kapara said to Rebbe, the same thing that Rebbe tried to explain it and Bar Kapara rejected it. So he said, I'll do to me like I'll ask you to do. Meaning say, have your wife pour out a cup of wine. And by the way, we know she never sang. He asked her to sing, but she never says she actually sang. But she did pour the wine, and then Rebbe danced, and Avadi did this. Rebbe danced. Amrlei. So then Bar Kapara says, what's tevel? What does it mean when it says tevel? Tavon yeshba, it means it's a question. The Ron says, is there any flavor to this? She's lying with an animal, but there's no flavor. There's nothing special. It's not something that's pleasing. So all the sexual interactions are the same. Why does she have to do this prohibited act of sleeping with an animal? It doesn't feel any better. So then Bar Kapara says to Rebbe, Amarei, my zima. What is this zima? Because it says in the Torah, you're not allowed to al-tachal as pitcha as nosa. You're not allowed to have your daughter be a harlot. And then if you do that, mala arat zima. It says if you do that, the land will be filled with zima. So Bar Kapara says to Rebbe, what's this zima? Amarei Avid kinyan kadma. So Bar Kapara tells Rebbe, do like you did before, meaning dance. Avad, he did it. So he says zima means when she's pregnant with the child, people are going to say this one. Mahi. The Ran it says washon safek. It's a doubt. Ein yadua, we don't know. Mihi misaberes. Who is the one who made her pregnant? So that's what we're saying. Zomahi. Well, Yachol ben Elasa or Mispal. Ben Elasa was unable to take this because Ben Elasa was very wealthy. So it means the indication is very proper. He didn't like this taunting and this gamesmanship that Bar Kapara was doing with his father-in-law. So what did he do? Come v'nafaku v'insasei mitama. He got up and he left with his wife from there. He did not approve. He did not approve. So he didn't like the way his father-in-law was being treated. My ben alasa. What does it mean to be a ben alasa? Why do we say? How do we know that ben alasa was very wealthy? Where do we learn this from? The Tanya lo chinam pizer ben alasa. That's Mosef, because it says in the Brisa, and we have this Brisa in Sanhedrin, which is talking about Barak Kohen Gadol. What we talk about the Kohen Gadol's responsibilities. One that he is supposed to get a haircut every single day. So the Brisa there tells us that not for nothing did Ben Elazar spend his money on fancy haircuts. He had a specific purpose. He wanted to show exactly how the Kohen Gadol got a haircut. We see from here, even when we get a haircut, if we do it with Shem Shemayim, if we do it, he wanted to use everything as a teaching opportunity. He said, when I get a haircut, I'm going to try and show the world exactly how the Kohanim got their haircut. The Kohen Gadol used to have a very specific haircut every day, and that's what he did. He would spend a lot of money on his haircut to show everybody how the high priest got his haircut. As it says in the verse, Kasom Yichsemu Es Roshehem, that they should trim their beards. And what does that mean? That's from Yechezkel. Tana Ke'en Lulanis. It's like a haircut that looks like Lulanis. And what is Lulanis? My Lulanis. What is this haircut? This Lulanis haircut? It's a very special, it's a unique haircut. So, the tip of one hair came right up to the root of the next hair next to it. This is indeed the haircut of the Kohen Gadol. So Ben Elazar wanted to show everybody what that was. So that was the haircut he got. And so he had said in the Mishnah that if you take a vow against the Tavshil, you're allowed to eat a Dalah Saramutza. So what is this Dalah Saramutza? What is this Dalah Saramutza? So Amai Dalah Saramutza, Amar Shmuel, Kora Karkuzai. Shmuel says it's a gourd from a place called Karkuzai. And the Mefarish tells us those gourds never are cooked properly. So that's why you're allowed to eat if you take a vow against the Tavshil. Rav Ashi says, now this is a gourd that you cook it in coals. And you don't cook it on the stove, you cook it by putting it in coals. You wrap it up and you cook in heat. And you insulate it and you put it in the coal. So Eser Ravina or Rav Ashi, Ravina challenges this because Ravina Chemia Omer, Tulas Aramasi, Tulas Amitris, that Tulas Aramis is the same thing as the Egyptian Tulas, and Kolayim Imayavanis, and Kolayim Imaramutza. That if you know that you're not allowed to plant two seeds from different seeds together from two different types of plants. So we're being told that the Tulas Aramutza is kilayim. It's a prohibition to plant it with the Dalas Amitris or Dalas Aramis. We see from here that this is not a manner of cooking it, but it's a type of gourd. And that's a question on Rav Ashi's approach. He said it was a manner of cooking it. So Tiyuvta. So that's a refutation of Rav Ashi. So says the Mishnah, let's say somebody takes a vow against anything that is cooked in the pot, it's prohibited also to eat anything that was cooked in the ilfis, because what they would do is, as our Mishnah Shakfar Yard look there, called them Shiyard Elfis. At first they would boil it and then they would fry it, and so therefore, if it was something that if you take a vow against the Kedera, you for sure can't eat anything that was in the elfis, because it first was cooked in the Kedera before getting to the elfis. But if you take a minayard elfis, if you take a vow against something that was cooked in the elfis, mutter biyard Kedera, then you're going to be allowed to have what is in the pot, because if you're in the elfis, it's not. If you take a vow against the elfis, then you haven't vowed against the Kedera. Minanasa the Kedera. But if you use an expression, anything that was made in the Kedera, mutter benasa mina elfis, then you're allowed to have something that's nasa the elfis, because nasa there means not something that was boiled in the Kedera and then put in the elfis. It means it was completed in the Kedera. So therefore, you're going to have something that was completed in the elfis, that was completely done in the elfis. If you take a vow against minanasa be'elfis, mutter benasa be'kedera. Same thing. If you take a vow against something from the elfis, you're allowed in the kedera. I know there minayorid l'tanor. If you take a vow against something that was going into the oven, that expression means ein asher al b'pas. That just prohibits you from bread. Vim amar kol ma'asa tanor alai. If you say, look, anything from the oven is prohibited upon me, asher b'kol nasa b'tanor. Then you're going to be prohibited anything that comes out of the oven. Says because that's what that expression means. So now the Gemara says, mina kavush, if you take a vow against something that was pickled, but you use this expression hakavush, ain aser element hakavush al yerek. That really refers to pickled vegetables. But if you say kavush anitom, if you say anything pickled that I taste, aser b'kol hakavushim, it's prohibited in all the pickled items. Let's say you say mina shalok, you say something that is boiled. It refers to really boiled meat. But shalk shanitoim, you say anything that's shalk that I taste, then it's prohibited in all of the shalukim, anything whatsoever that's this boiled. Amar dichvish. If you don't say hakavish, you say dikavish, or you say my dishelik my, or ditzli my, dimoliach my. What does that imply? Does that imply like hakavush or like kavush and itoim? It could be anything pickled or just pickled vegetables. Gemara says Tibaya, we leave this question unresolved. Take it. That is the next Mishnah. Minatzli. Let's say take a vow against anything that's roasted. Ein aser element minatzli shel baster. That refers to roasted meat. That's the Rabbi Yehuda. That's the position of Rabbi Yehuda. But if you say tzli shani toim, if you say anything roasted that I taste, then aser b'kol atziluyim, then it's going to be prohibited in anything that's roasted whatsoever. Mina maliach, let's take a vow against anything that's salted. That includes ein aser ela mina maliach shadag. That refers to salted fish. But let's say maliach shani toim. Let's say anything salted that I taste, aser b'kol amaluchim. That's going to be prohibited in all of the salted items. Let's say you say dagim. You say this double expression of fish in the singular and then dagim in the plural, shani toim. Aser b'hem ben gedolim ben ketanim. No, that's going to refer to both big fish and small fish. Dag refers to small fish. Dagim refers to large fish. Let's say, and also bein meluchim, whether it's salted fish, bein tefelim, whether it's unsalted, bein chayim, whether it is raw fish, bein mevusham, whether it's cooked fish. Umutar, and if you say this expression of dagim, you're going to be allowed in taris terufa. What's taris terufa? So we look over here on the side. That the Ran tells us taris terufa is dagadol, it's a large fish. It's tarif dak. That's cut into very small pieces. And the reason why it's permitted, if you say dagim, because that implies whole fish and not chopped up fish. It's like chopped fish. Okay. Therefore, if you say taris terufa, you're permitted ubatzir, and also you're permitted in the fish juice. I know they're minat tzachna, but let's say take a vow against the tzachna. What's the tzachna? The tzachna is also a type of liquid that comes out of the fish. So tzachna it's a mixture of a lot of salty fish together. Then we're going to say that if you have this tzachna, you take a vow against tzachna, also b'taris terufa, you're prohibited to eat the chopped up fish. Mutter b'tzir, you're going to be allowed to eat the juice. Ubemurias. The murias is the fat, the oil of the fish. And hanodar mitari is trufa. If you take a vow against the chopped fish, aser b'tzir b'murias, then you're not going to be allowed to eat the fish juices because the chopped fish has the fish juices in it. Tanya Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Omer, he taught if you say dag shani toim, let's say you say taking a vow against I'm not going to eat any fish. Asr b'gedolim, you're prohibited to eat the large fish. Mutter b'ketanim, because he says you're not allowed to eat the large fish if you say dag, but you're allowed to eat the small fish. Dag implies large fish, not small fish. But if you say daga, but if you say with the feminine, this fish, in the feminine shani toim, that I'm not going to eat, asr b'ketanim, then you're prohibited in the small fish, mutter b'gedolim. You're allowed to eat the large fish. So according to this source, dag refers to a large male fish, and daga refers to a large female fish. But let's say you say dag daga shani toim, asr ben b'gedolim ben b'ketanim. If you say dag daga, then you're prohibited in both large fish and small fish. Amalei Rav Papa Abaye says Rav Papa Abaye mimai de dag shani toim gadohu. How do we know that if you say the word dag, it refers to a large fish? How do we know that? It says in the pasuk in the book of Jonah, Vayman Hashem dag gadol, that God prepared a large fish of as Yonah. God prepared a large fish to swallow Jonah. So we see from here that the dag is a large fish. And so the Gemara says, but how can you say, the Gemara questions, how can you say that he was in a large fish, because it's called a dag? But what about the fact that a few verses later, it says, in one verse later, it says that Jonah prayed to Hashem from the belly of the daga, mimea daga, which shows that he's in a female fish. So if that's the case, why does it say daga in the second verse and not dag? And why do we say daga is a small fish? If Jonah is in this fish, it can't be too small. Or says, well, no, that's not difficult. What we have to say is like this. Dilma, obviously, we know this. What happened was, palte dag gadol, that a large fish, Jonah was initially swallowed up by a large fish, but he wasn't praying in the large fish. He had too much space. He felt like he was on vacation. He was in the Bahamas. And so the large fish spit him out to Boe Dag Katan. Then the small fish, the Daga, swallowed him up. And that's what happened. Others explain that really what was going on here was that Jonah was first swallowed up. The Yalkut Shimoni explains it like this, that at first Jonah was swallowed up in the male fish and he didn't pray. So Hashem said, I gave him too much space. So therefore I'm going to prepare a female fish, which is filled with a lot of little baby fish inside her waiting to be born, even though fish lay eggs, I guess, but still a lot of eggs in there crushing him, and then he's going to pray. Some say Jonah was first. The Maharsha brings down that first he was swallowed up by a male fish, spit out into the female fish. He prayed, then he was spit out again and swallowed up by the male fish for the third time, and only then was he spit out onto the dry land. So the Gemara says, well, you mean to say that dag refers to the large fish and daga refers to the small fish? What about when it comes to Egypt? When we were in Mitzrayim and Hashem brought a plague of dam on the Nile River. Well, it says there, Va'adaga sher by or mesa, that the daga which were in the river, they died. You mean to say Kitana Mesu Gedolim Mesu? You mean only the small fish died, not the large fish? If the river turns to blood, all the fish should die. Ela daga mashma Gedolim mashma Ketanim. So daga implies large fish and small fish. By vows, we follow the way people speak, and people speak with by saying dag is a large fish and daga is a small fish. I know if somebody takes a vow against the tzachna, we said on the previous page, we said tzachna is all this many small fishes mixed together and salted. So then we're saying he's allowed to have, our Mishnah said, if you take that, you're not allowed to have taris trufa, you're not allowed to have chopped fish, but you're allowed to have the fish juices. Amar Ravina Ravashi, Amar Harei Tzichen Mai. So let's say he says this expression. He says this should be upon me as tzichen is prohibited upon me. So what's going to be the law with respect to the fish juice there? Does tzichen, is that the translation of tzachna? Or do we say that sichon is means something else, meaning to say he wants to that he's trying to prohibit upon himself the brine because they have a bad smell, and that's matzlinim, meaning means something else. That's the way the Ran explains it. So the Gemara explains Tibaya. Again, there's another question that we don't have the answer to. Let me stop the recording here.